I was an asthmatic as a kid, dysfunctional breathing, learning difficulties, struggling to concentrate as a kid just affected my whole life. In 2005, I was king hit and had my 4 front teeth knocked out. Post-traumatic stress, you name it, I had it. Couldn't leave the house, couldn't work, couldn't do anything. I started developing these allergies. I used to scratch myself till I bled. It was the worst period of my life. Holding on to that hate, that frustration, that anger, it's poison. You've got to let it go. My awakening was when I lost my health. I wouldn't be here today if that didn't happen. I wouldn't be on this path, on this journey. It gave me a hypersensitivity to understand my own nervous system and my own body. I tell people I feel smarter and I breathe better and I take my mouth shut at night, but I literally feel smarter. My key message at the moment is getting people to understand stress. You've got to understand stress and work out what stress is good for you and what stress is bad for you. Things get worse before they get better, but people have got to want to change. We're so comfortable that it's actually killing us.
It's interesting that when I looked in the back end of our YouTube channel and it says 95% of you that watch it frequently haven't yet hit the subscribe button. So I have a small favor to ask. If you've ever watched this channel and enjoyed the content, please, can I ask you a small favor? Please hit the subscribe button. It honestly helps this channel more than I can explain. And I promise you, if you do that, I will return the favor. We will make this show better and better. That's a promise that I'm willing to make if you press the subscribe button. Do we have a deal? Dean Gladstone, man. I've been excited for this episode for a while. As we spoke about before, we tried to get this happening a couple of years back. And it would have been online, but I'm so grateful it didn't happen then, and it's happened now. We have you in person. We have you in the studio. You've made the trip out. I'm super grateful. Thank you for coming.
Mate, my pleasure. And what a beautiful studio it is. Like, there's some fancy cameras floating around. It's a really nice setup. And, little Coco, she should almost be floating around in here. I love you, pup.
Yeah, she's full of energy, man, just like yourself. That's probably why you can relate to her.
Yeah.
Man, we met a couple of years back.
We were just discussing. We're trying to work out when it was, right?
Yeah, I think it was 2020.
When did Corey do his world record?
2021? Yeah. I think, beginning, somewhere.
Anyway, we could look it up. But yeah. Couple of years back.
Yeah, we met you. We went to your house. We did the ice bath, the breath, all that good stuff. And man, that was a great experience. And that was my first time kind of really being introduced to all that. It was a bit of a shock to the system. But ever since then, I've continued to delve into that a lot more. And I think that's why I wanted to get you on here today, to not only dive into your story and who you are as a person, but your expertise when it comes to breath work and ice bath, because this podcast is a mental health podcast. And I believe these modalities improve mental health drastically.
Yeah.
There's so many people in this world struggling. So as a society, we're struggling. Imagine if we could implement breath work and ice, which is easily done, into our day-to-day or weekly practice. How much happier and healthier would society be?
Yeah, it's scary, isn't it?
But where I want to start is for people who don't know who you are. Now, people may have seen you on Bondi Rescue and what you're doing with the breath work. But what does the listener need to know about yourself to better understand the man that sits in front of us today?
Yeah, good question. Really good question. I guess, I tie it back. I was an asthmatic as a kid, hospitalised when I was 9. I remember that. And I always struggled with my asthma. And, now reflectively, when I look back, there's a potential connection to mouth breathing, dysfunctional breathing, learning difficulties, struggling to concentrate. There's a whole range of things that this asthma and mouth breathing that I had as a kid just affected my whole life. The asthma sent me swimming training, and it kept me swimming training, because whenever I stopped swimming training, I used to struggle to run around the block. Active kid, loved playing footy and doing all sorts of stuff, always outdoors, having fun. And when I was swimming training, I'd win the cross country at school without doing much running. I was doing lots of swimming, lots of cardiovascular training. But when I wasn't swimming, I just couldn't do it. So I had this belief in my head that I needed to swim my whole life to be able to do other stuff. And that just sort of was what what sort of kept me going, potentially gave me a job as a lifeguard.
Yep.
Going to university wasn't an option for me. I literally couldn't spell university, and that is not a joke.
Yeah, wow.
When I left, I actually taught myself the alphabet when I was an apprentice plumber.
Really?
Because I'd look through a street directory and I'd used to get confused around STW. And I'd get, back in the day when there were street directories, I don't know, some people might not remember that.
God, feeling old now. That was getting phased out as I was kind of growing up.
Yeah.
So I remember the street directory. A lot of people may not. But
just had to touch up on the alphabet just so I wouldn't get, just to make life more efficient. So, I had some learning difficulties. My sister diagnosed me as dyslexic sort of when she started studying occupational therapy. She's 2 years younger than me. It wasn't much good. There was actually a hot food shop round the corner, and for dyslexic people, they read words wrong. So I used to call it Hot Frog. And and the whole family used to call the shop Hot Frog. That was a family joke. And when you look back at things like this, you can sort of start to connect my past to sort of where I've gone now. And as a breathing coach, and again, I've jumped ahead, but I tell people I feel smarter when I breathe better and I take my mouth shut at night, and potentially we'll talk about the benefits of that, but I literally feel smarter. And, if you know where I've come from, sort of teaching myself the alphabet as a 19-year-old, saying that may make a bit of sense. But yes, asthmatic, dysfunctional learner, dysfunctional breather, no option to go to university, was very good at swimming, making rep teams, winning state medals. Got a job as a lifeguard because I wanted to help people. And Bondi Rescue come along, sort of opened up a whole new world. And I started doing yoga in my mid-20s, mainly because I couldn't touch my knees, let alone my toes. And the regulated nasal breathing from yoga started to give me some of what swimming was giving me. And I felt like I didn't have to rely on swimming because of yoga, and my mind was blown.
Okay.
And then where are we? In 2005, I was king hit and had my 4 front teeth knocked out. I don't know. I can't. Which one's fake? Can you see?
No, I can't even notice.
We'd have to look closer.
Yeah.
I think the right front tooth's fake. So they're all sort of stuck in there.
They did a good job because they look natural.
And after that, I was. Are we swearing on this podcast?
Yeah,
I was fucked. Absolutely fucked. Post-traumatic stress, you name it, I had it. Allergies, anxiety. It was horrible. It was the worst sort of period of my life. Couldn't leave the house, couldn't work, couldn't do anything. I started developing these allergies, as I just mentioned. I used to scratch myself till I bled, and then I become so focused on health and nutrition, it took me a couple of years to find that path. And then I just, everything I ate had to be organic. I had to cook everything. I couldn't go out. So it was an interesting time trying to build my body back because as I mentioned, for me, my job, my career as a lifeguard or even as a plumber or as a personal trainer, I all needed my body to function. And my body wasn't functioning after this attack. And I've become really focused on building my body back and understanding stress, and become really interested in nervous system regulation. Studied under a guy called Paul Chek. Love Paul Chek. I did his holistic lifestyle coaching, and part of that was teaching people to breathe better. And it really set me up for sort of where I am now. When I studied and climbed a mountain with Wim Hof about 5 or 6 years ago. You come and did a Wim Hof session with us, and just really love tapping into particularly breath work and cold therapy to understand and regulate the nervous system. And I use this to educate people about stress.
Coming back to when you were a child and, dyslexic, did that impact you a lot, especially in school, like mentally, knowing that you're, I guess, different compared to the other kids?
Yeah, well, I always thought I was just dumb.
Yeah. Were you introverted?
Yes. Yeah, I was introverted.
So you kind of kept to yourself anyway?
Well, it's funny. I don't know. It's a hard question. I feel like I'm introverted, but sometimes I feel like being introverted is an excuse. In the early days as a lifeguard, like people would sort of wave and I didn't know whether they would be waving at me or not. And I'd sort of put my head down and, you know, sometimes they were, sometimes they weren't. And then, you know, I was working with Harry's and he'd just wave at anyone and talk to anyone. And I worked out it's better to wave and smile at people, even if they're not waving and smiling at you, than to sort of snob them and be embarrassed. So I sort of felt, while I'm introverted, you do have to push yourself out of your comfort zone.
Do you feel that's also a lack of self-confidence as well, why you put your head down? Because for me, I'm naturally introverted and I kind of steered away from everyone, kept to myself, and as I put my head down like you did. And what I've come to understand now is like, yes, this is introvert and extrovert, but a lot of that for me
stress and anxiety,
stress and anxiety and a lack of confidence.
Yeah, absolutely, 100%. I used to get nervous, embarrassed, public speaking, like going on a podcast even. Like the first year they filmed Bondi Rescue, I couldn't string a sentence together.
Yeah, that was just like this podcast. If you go back and listen to the first couple of episodes, terrible. Absolutely terrible.
But this is how you get better, right? You've got to push yourself out of your comfort zone.
That's it.
And we did a photo shoot last week and I used to get really embarrassed and stuff like that, really self-conscious. And we were just taking the piss out of each other, having the best time, having a laugh, 4 mates, getting dressed up in Saba gear, doing a photo shoot at Tamarama Beach, not giving a fuck if people judge us or not. If that's their business, if they want to judge other people and talk down to people, I just try not to engage in any of that shit and try and do what I want to do. And I know I'm a good person and I want to help people. And if people choose to judge me, that's their business.
That's it. You can't control how other people perceive you.
You can't worry about it.
That's it. You can only control yourself.
Yeah.
And coming back to the whole introvert extrovert thing, what I've also come to realize is, yes, a big part of that is, you know, stress and anxiety and confidence, but on a root level, it's how your energy is expended. So like extrovert, they gain energy from social interactions and putting themselves out there, whereas introvert, it kind of drains them. Yes, you may be passionate about being a lifeguard and going out there and saving lives and having those conversations, but at the end of the day, you once you understand your energy system, you're like, okay, I need to regulate now. I need to recharge the battery so I'm good tomorrow.
Yeah. So as a lifeguard, I used to love it. You know, there'd be people talking to us. I used to really enjoy it. You know, being on Bondi Beach, everyone comes up. But then I'd find when I get a couple of days off, I would like that recharge or that balance that you just referred to, and spending time out of the sun in a cinema, almost looking for the opposite, just to get that some quietness and some me time.
Yeah, because you need it. If you just keep draining the battery, you're not going to be able to turn up as your best self. And to put it in simpler terms, so the way I explain is extrovert wakes up with 5 coins. No, wakes up with 0 coins, and every interaction they gain a coin from that. Introvert wakes up with 5 coins. Every interaction they lose a coin. So at the end of the day, they're zapped. So they need to recharge. We need to recharge. And once I came to understand that, I focused a lot on my self-care and recharging the batteries. And off the back of that, I was able to turn up as my best self and work on the confidence areas and the anxiety areas of my life. And it's just, this podcast has blossomed and I've been able to string sentences together and have a conversation, whereas previously I wouldn't be able to do that.
Yeah, but if you are so introverted that you choose not to do stuff like this, you actually sit back and go, oh, I missed out on that opportunity. And then you start to regret and then you start to feel even worse.
Yeah, that was me first 20 years of my life.
Yeah.
I lived in my comfort zone until I made the change. And then now, the way I see anxiety now is I used to feel like it was a negative thing. Oh, why am I experiencing this? Now, when it arises, I'm like, one, I'm actually excited because they've done studies and it correlates anxiety and excitement is like the same.
Yeah, I tell that story as well. People pay to see scary movies. People pay to be scared.
Yeah, so I tell myself I'm excited, but also it's a sign of something that I need to go towards.
Fear and anxiety, fear and excitement are neurologically very similar.
Yeah, and once you push yourself out of that comfort zone, that's where the growth lies. But you got to understand, coming back to your comfort zone, that's where you recharge. So there's pros and cons to it.
Yeah, so my key, message at the moment, I'm a yoga teacher, personal trainer, lifeguard, I do promotional work, Wim Hof instructor, breathing retraining coach, is getting people to understand stress. And as you just said, you've got to understand stress and work out what stress is good for you and what stress is bad for you. And this is particularly important in some of the breathing work and the ice baths.
And I wanted to go back again a little bit because you mentioned you believe a part of why you struggled growing up, especially with your learning, was around mouth breathing. But as a child, when we're born, we're naturally nose breathers. So how do you feel we develop mouth breathing?
Yeah, so I wasn't breastfed as a child.
Yeah, okay.
My mum was a baby when she had me. She was 21. There's you can delve into some work by a dentist named Weston A. Price. And he was in America in the 1930s, and he was looking at the African Americans with these big jaws, beautiful teeth, beautiful nose, beautiful face structure. And what will we call them? The white Americans with crooked teeth, yellow teeth, missing teeth, fillings. And so there was very different smiles. So when some people smile, they have these big, beautiful teeth. So our teeth are actually our bones. You can see our bones. And if you can see someone has poor teeth, then there's a likelihood that their bones aren't going to be big and beautiful and as well developed. So he went round the world, and what he was curious was what were indigenous populations eating to have such beautiful teeth, as opposed to what were the so-called white man's foods. And he was in Australia in the 1930s, and he was looking at Aboriginals who were still living off the land, and then he was looking at Aboriginals eating white man's foods. And the four white devils, I think they named them: white sugar, white milk, white table salt, and white flour. And in less than a generation or two, you can quickly see the difference, not only in the teeth, in the nose. So there's some genetical changes. Is genetical a word?
It is now.
It is now. But I think people know what we mean.
Yeah.
But yeah, the genetics are influenced, epigenetics and genetics. And epigenetics is another interesting conversation. But genetics sort of play a role, and in a couple of generations, you can severely stuff up your body if you treat it wrong.
So evolution in a way, but going backwards.
De-evolution, James Nestor refers to.
Yeah, I was listening to his podcast.
In his book, Breath, The New Science of the Lost Art. And I don't know if he coined that term. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't. But yeah, in some ways, human beings are going backwards. So a breathing coach wouldn't have been necessary, a couple of 100 years ago, because people were eating different. Now there's so much processed food, and we're so comfortable when people aren't getting cold. People can eat at 10 o'clock at night, and then they're getting coffees, and we're so comfortable that it's actually killing us. There's an interesting book called The Comfort Crisis, while we're talking about books. But so some of these stresses people are responding really positively to. One is intermittent fasting. One is cold therapy. Even being barefoot, and you'll notice me sort of wandering around like this, these comfortable shoes aren't activating all the small muscles in our feet. So by potentially making people's lives harder, we're seeing them become more comfortable and happier and healthier.
Yeah, I even seen studies relating. So you just mentioned the face structure changing over time. Our feet structures change too, because we're in shoes, and it's compressing our feet. Whereas we're meant to be more wider to grip the ground, but that's changed over time too. Ever since the introduction of shoes, and it's crazy how humans are destructive to ourselves. Which is a pretty good way to put that.
Yeah, it's funny what the shortcut sometimes isn't necessarily the Band-Aid solution. It's like when people have a headache, they take a Panadol. They don't look to see why they have a headache. The Panadol doesn't fix the headache, it just masks it.
We never get to the root cause of anything, which, referring back to mental health, and, I think there's a time and place for medication and stuff like that.
Absolutely.
But 99% of people are going to a psychologist or a doctor, antidepressants, anti-anxiety pills, like all this stuff.
So that's what happened to me. After my assault, I bounced around from doctor They wanted to put me on anxiety medication, sleeping tablets, cholesterol-lowering drugs, and it was just making me worse. And the more I learned, the more I realised that those guys weren't helping me at all. And I just flicked them all. The whole medical system avoided it as much as possible, and my health and wellness and vitality has just gone through the roof ever since.
It's a sick system, not a health system.
Yeah, sick care. Sick management system. But, my sort of first port of call is natural health. And the beautiful work that I do empowers people to tap into their own natural health. Now, certainly not encouraging people just to ditch their medication completely. If you are interested, if people are listening, they want to decrease their medication or do it slowly. Find a doctor that will support you. If your doctor won't, find another one.
You became obsessed with health after the incident that occurred. What does health look like for you now? Because it's a massive debate in society. What does health look like? Everyone has their own opinions, all these diets and stuff like that. For you personally, Dean, what does your version of health look like?
So for me at the time, I was a lifeguard. So I needed my body fit and healthy so I could potentially go from sitting, having a chat, to running full speed into the water to save someone's life.
So that's when it comes to like diet and training, what did that involve?
The health, yeah. So it was turning back the clock, going into the paleo diet at the time was what I sort of ended up with, and I was actually drinking some raw milk too. I went off milk, and then I'm actually back on a little bit of milk at the moment.
Just raw milk still? Or?
No, it's really hard to get raw milk.
Yeah.
They had bath milk around for a while. But, again, sort of we talked about those 4 white devils, and it's pretty much avoiding processed food. There's lots of diets around. If people want to get healthier, avoid processed food. And if you avoid processed food, you'll avoid flour, sugar, and vegetable oil. Vegetable oil is a really nasty one. Yeah, and that's a newer one. And it's in everything. Every time people go out to eat, pretty much their food has vegetable oil. If it's anything fried or, it's a takeaway, you're getting vegetable oil.
I can notice the difference. I made a poor choice last night in having McDonald's. And I've definitely felt it today. It's just my body, because I rarely eat any of that stuff. So when I do, I don't know why I make this decision to eat it, but at the time I made it, I definitely feel it the next day. And I was like, why do I put myself through this? And 2, what is in that food to make you feel like that? Like it's disgusting to think like how they're making it. And I seen a video today, what was it? Around cows and milk and stuff like that. And they push a cow to the furthest extent, like to get milk and stuff out of it, and to the point where they drop and they can't hold themselves up.
It's awful, isn't it?
They're the cows that apparently go to McDonald's. So you're eating a sick cow. Whether that's true or not, I don't know. But to think about that, it's not healthy for you at all. Yeah,
so Paul Chek's book that changed my life was You Are What You Eat. And I don't know when, 2008, 2009, I was bouncing around, bounced around to all those useless doctors. And, I'm not doctor bashing here. Like, there's some great doctors, and medicine's changed a lot since then. There's lots more, what do they call them? Functional medicine doctors.
Yeah.
Like that, they weren't around then.
Yeah, like, and there's holistic
newer field, too. Yeah. And again, there's some great doctors out there, but, unfortunately, there's some shithouse doctors that have no idea. I remember getting sick 5 or 6 years ago, and I only go to the doctor if I need a doctor's certificate mainly. And he told me to eat some white bread and drink some lemonade. And I'm like, mate, well, I just don't understand what's that going to... He's go, it'll give you some energy. I go, sugar suppresses the immune system. And he just went, no, it doesn't. And I'm like, well... You might want to do some research because I'm pretty sure it does. And then he's like, well, just do whatever you want. And he didn't like it.
Yeah, that's That's outrageous. And
Well, but that's what they do when people are sick. They tell them to drink off lemonade and eat some white bread for their stomach.
And the people that go and see these doctors, you wonder why they're regularly continuing to go back and back and back, because it's the poor advice.
Well, people don't question what doctor, or never used to question what, some people don't question what a doctor tells them. If a doctor tells them something, they think it's a gold standard, and, still to this day, it's like, oh, the doctor told me to do this. And, they follow that to the T, and I find it quite odd. I like, doctors' opinions I think are interesting, drink some lemonade and eat some white bread. It's an interesting opinion. I may choose to do that, or I may choose to fucking throw that in the bin on the way out. But yeah, I think if people spoke to a couple of doctors and got a couple of different opinions, and maybe spoke to a naturopath and maybe spoke to a chiro, yoga teacher, health coach, I think that would be a much more rounded way to get some information. Because doctors, there's no doubt, doctors do some amazing things, and what we're talking about here is not, if you break your arm or if you have some sort of virus, doctor's going to be great. Yeah. When we're talking about long-term health, dealing with potentially mental health, stress, anxiety, these are chronic illnesses. These are illnesses that have been built up over a couple of years, and medication's generally not going to fix them. It's some sort of Band-Aid solution.
When we connected a couple of years back, I remember you gave me a piece of this tape. Oh. Not the same one, but ever since then, I've been purchasing this and using it to sleep with every night. What are the benefits of this? Because for me personally, I can tell you my sleep has improved dramatically. I don't wake up with a dry mouth and feeling like crap. Scientifically, what are the benefits of taping your mouth at night?
So, potentially, Nick, you're like me. We've sort of suffered some sort of de-evolution through our parents or grandparents or whatever that may be. And for some reason or another, we've got smaller mouths, maybe smaller airways, and our mouths just drop open at night. And this makes us mouth breathe. When you breathe through your mouth, you're not breathing optimally. Your heart rate increases. You're more likely to wake up. Mouth breathing slightly stimulates the excitement response in the body, just ever so slightly, the sympathetic nervous system. And so if in the middle of the night, if you're ever so slightly stimulating the sympathetic nervous system, you're going to come out of deep sleep into a lighter sleep, or potentially going to wake up. And then once you wake up, you might need to go to the toilet, or, this is the problem with people with insomnia. They're just potentially mouth breathing, and it's hard to generalise. It'll be like a doctor saying everyone needs to tape their mouth, because some people naturally nasally breathe, and they don't need to tape their mouth. So your mouth's dropping open, you're over breathing, you're not getting as well rest. And as I mentioned, I felt smarter when I'd tape my mouth and breathe through my nose. So you're breathing slower when you're breathing through your nose, and this down-regulates the body, gets you more relaxed, down-regulates the heart, drops the blood pressure. And you could take it as far into one of the studies they did of 150 people that had had heart attacks. All of these people were dysfunctional breathers. So 70% of them were mouth breathers, they were upper chest breathers, they're fast breathers. So that extra stress over time really builds up. So it's not one night. It's not one night of mouth breathing that's going to kill you. Yeah. It's 20, 30 years of mouth breathing. It's the habits. It's the long-term habits that we were just talking about.
I'm curious though. So I tape my mouth.
Do you tape every night? Are you still doing
Basically every night.
Yeah.
Unless a night I'm that tired and I pass out and forget to.
Yep.
But then I noticed the difference in the morning. It's only some mornings that my mouth will come open and I can feel like dry mouth and stuff.
Because I'm like you, I've been taping for longer than you.
Yeah.
And sometimes I'll nasally breathe at night and I'll wake up and feel great without tape. And then other times I wake up and I know I've been mouth breathing and it's like, oh, fuck. Okay. Yeah. Whereas some people retrain the body to breathe nasally in 1 to 3 months.
Really? So they don't need tape anymore?
No, yeah. So they change their habit. Their body just gravitates back towards nasal breathing.
That's interesting. Wow. I'm curious though. For me, I can breathe through my nose well through the night, but when I wake up in the morning and as soon as I remove my tape, like my nose kind of gets congested again. Have you ever experienced someone that yourself or someone like that?
No, I haven't. So nasal breathing, when you nasally breathe, there's something called nitric oxide that's released in the nasal cavity. And nitric oxide is a vasodilator. So nitric oxide opens the airways and the blood vessels, which makes breathing easier. So when we breathe through the mouth, the hole's bigger and you can get in heaps more air. Now, this is not a good thing. We don't need more air or more oxygen. We actually need to breathe through the nose. And potentially for people that are mouth breathing, they need to breathe less. So as a generalisation, people in society today are potentially over-breathing, maybe like they're overeating. And so when I work with people in breathing retraining, it's generally getting them to breathe less.
Yeah, okay. Yeah,
But yeah, that congestion is a bit funny. Is it through on both sides of your nose? Because there is some erectile tissue like muscle in our nose, and the body will naturally adjust that.
Some mornings it's maybe one side, but a lot of the times it's both sides. And
Both sides.
It's weird. Like when I first wake up, I'm like, yeah, cool, I can breathe fine. But then when I come to and I remove the mouth tape, it kind of congestion. So I'm like, I don't know if that's coming down to diet or I don't know.
Yeah, it could be some dust, could be some diet, could be some gut health, could be a whole range of things and a combination of all of the above. But the fact that you have awareness of it is brilliant. And there's a nose unblocking exercise I can flick through. It's on my Instagram somewhere. Might even be on YouTube. And
is there something quickly you can demonstrate?
Yeah, it's quite a... Are you blocked now?
A little bit.
Which side?
Like I can feel a tiny bit of congestion. I can still breathe from my
give
nose.
us another side. Yeah, that's the right side, right? All right. Inhale, exhale, pinch the nose, hold the breath. Not a big one, little one. And we'll hold the breath for 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Breathe back in through the nose. So we're trying to get this nasal nitric oxide building up in that nasal cavity, and hopefully we're going to get up to open that air. And again, do the same. Inhale, exhale, hold the nose, and sometimes I use peppermint oil, and see if you can give your face a little massage here, big stretch, and then breathe in through the nose.
Yeah, that feels...
Now 5 times would be the recommendation, but give us a test. Maybe a little bit. Yeah. Go through 4 or 5 times. Some peppermint oil is really nice, but sometimes getting into here and here can release some tight muscles around the face, the jaw, big stretch up.
Yeah.
Do you notice any clicking when you do that?
No.
Sometimes people carry stress in their jaw, their neck, their posture. You know, there's so much going on with our bodies.
What I used to kind of do something like that. I don't know where I've seen it or I just created it myself. Is I would do the nose breathing, hold my breath out.
Yep.
And block my nose and then kind of shake my head.
Yeah, shake your head.
Yeah, and that kind of helps in unblocking it too.
Yeah. The longer you hold your breath for, the more the body will naturally open up.
And would you say it was nitric acid that's building
Nitric oxide.
Nitric oxide that's building up.
Yep.
And that kind of expands the vessels in your nose.
Yeah, it's a vasodilator and bronchodilator, so it makes it easier to breathe. So nitric oxide is sort of when they work with stuff like Viagra medication to open blood vessels. Viagra was a heart medication, because people with heart disease is the biggest killer worldwide. So by breathing, we're getting something that we create in our own body to open our own airways and blood vessels. So Viagra, guess which blood vessels it was opening?
Yep.
And the people didn't want to give it back, right? That's how they discovered Viagra. They were testing heart medication. Yeah, wow. So that's what they're doing with nitric oxide.
How can people incorporate this small breath work into their everyday life? Is it just if they're blocked doing the 5 rounds of what we just did then?
Yeah, so, we can make it really simple and just get people trying to breathe nasally as much as possible. If people breathe nasally, they're going to engage the diaphragm more, which will make them breathe a little bit slower, massage all their internal organs, and reduce their risk of injury. And again, diaphragmatic breathing is linked to relaxation. The slow breathing is really beneficial. When people are stressed, they naturally hyperventilate. So nasal breathing is linked to slower breathing, simply smaller holes, smaller airways. And the other one is breathe a little bit less. And so if you're nasal breathing, you're breathing less, you're breathing slower, and you're breathing diaphragmatically.
Should we be timing that kind of thing, like how many breaths per minute? Or?
So 4.5 to 6 breaths a minute, they've sort of talked about is ideal for HRV, heart rate variability, and that's sort of getting that breath, mind, body connection. So that's when they're sort of starting to quantify all this data and starting to measure it.
Yeah, because I was listening to James Nestor's one of his podcasts that he's been on, and he was speaking about diaphragmatic breathing and how, because most of society we're sitting all day, we're not able to fully breathe, like fully expand our diaphragm. One, and then two, because we are mouth breathing, it's only in our chest here.
Yeah.
So we're not accessing all that, which has all the releases chemicals or something like that. And breathing filters all the air and keeps us moist.
So you're less likely to get sick as well.
And he said, if you're continually breathing through your nose, you don't even have to drink as much water because you're capturing that moisture from the air.
Yeah.
And I found that very interesting.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And they've done that. I've read the studies on that. So they've done studies the way they do that, and it's 41% more moisture is lost by mouth breathing. And so they measured people and with things on their face and captured that moisture and weighed it and did all sort of fancy science on it. But yeah, people dive deep into this stuff. But if you were in the desert, this would be really important, right? You know, for people without water, this could potentially be life-saving.
That's crazy. That's probably why a lot of the people survive out there. Do you think that because the nose breathing?
Well, if there was two people there and it is the mouth breather versus the nose breather, it's going to support the nose breather for survival, absolutely.
Yeah, wow.
But there's, again, it's not, there's multiple things going on with those people, and it's, you need to look at we've talked about diet and nutrition. We haven't talked about sleep, but we sort of touched on it, getting better sleep through breathing. There's some other sleep hygiene habits that really support sleep as well.
What are some of those?
Well, trying to get off your device, trying to go to bed at a consistent time. I like to turn my Wi-Fi off. There was a study I read last year where Wi-Fi decreases HRV, heart rate variability. And heart rate variability is said to be a great indicator of the parasympathetic nervous system or that vagal tone. So they're starting to quantify Wi-Fi radiation, electromagnetic radiation, and the way it affects the body. So it's just a stressor, another stressor on the body. So when I work with people, we're looking at understanding stress and then potentially decreasing stresses where we can.
So it's getting those little 1%ers.
1%ers, 100%.
Which will add up for a healthier life. Wow. Yeah, all this stuff is very interesting. Imagine if people could implement this day to day, which they can. They can, that's the thing. It's about
people are lazy.
Lazy and getting the education out there. That's why this podcast, people are going to listen and be like, wow, I can do this in 5-10 minutes a day, which is going to improve my health.
I've got some free videos on YouTube. And as you talked about with the diaphragmatic breathing, there's a free video on YouTube. I'll give it to you. You can share it with everyone. I get people to lay down. And when people are laying down, the diaphragm's also a core muscle. So by laying down, it takes gravity out of the spine, and you're able to just breathe nice and easy without that gravity. It's not working to support the core.
Is it something you can do seated though as well, or no?
You can breathe diaphragmatically seated. Like if I sat up nice and tall and put my hands below my ribs, breathe in through my nose. So diaphragm sits here underneath the rib cage. And when you breathe in, it pulls down. And by pulling down, it creates a low pressure system in the lungs. This helps sort of force air into the body where we utilise that for oxygen.
All right. Maybe towards the end of the podcast, we'll do a little demonstration, 1 or 2 minute breath.
Yeah,
we'll go
absolutely.
through it to give the listeners something to take away and they can implement as well.
Safety while they're driving.
Yes,
please.
yes.
People don't
no
do
driving.
stupid.
I want to dive into meditation, and it's something that a lot of people struggle with, something that I've struggled with. And I think I heard you say it, or I've heard someone else say it, where breathwork can give you the same benefits or allow you to drop into a meditative state a lot easier than just doing straight meditation. And for you, is that the...
Absolutely. I think breathwork is more tangible than meditation. You can really feel those sensations quite quickly. And for some people, like after the assault, when I was king hit, people are going, oh, you need to meditate. So I'm trying to meditate and I'm just sitting there just thinking about this bloke just punching out my 4 front teeth. Like I could feel the teeth pushed backwards in my throat and the blood, and then like it was horrible. It would take me back into that state, and it was actually worse. So the thing with our brains are so powerful, when we sort of start to relive those situations, we start to release stress hormones. So my body actually thinks I'm getting assaulted as I'm sitting there being meditated. Yeah. Whereas something like, and the Wim Hof is a great example because it's really energetic and you're into it, right? You're not thinking about trying to clear the mind and the reason why you're meditating. You're sort of going through this somatic action,
just focus on the
intense breath work. And it actually takes you into a little bit of a stress response, but you're in control and you hold your breath and come out of it. So you're going in and out of a stress response. So yeah, for many people, breath work is much more enjoyable, efficient, and much more better is poor English. Much better than meditation. But I also believe it takes people into a meditation space that they couldn't achieve before, or they didn't know existed before. So after the bliss of breath work, where they're just lying there and they're high. They've reached that clarity, they're high, but there's nothing going on in their mind, they can potentially experience that through meditation afterwards, or slow breathing, or gratitude practices. There's a whole range of things where people could be outdoors just finding some form of meditation that now they know exists and that they've felt in their body.
That's my my favourite feeling doing the breath work, when you finish and you just let out, you're on that high. I was having a conversation with...
Do you feel energised, high, relaxed? How would you describe it? Because it's very different for different people.
Relaxed.
Relaxed.
I'm just like in a different dimension. Just fully relaxed and just enjoying that moment. And so it's one of the best feelings. I really enjoy it, and it's why I try to do breath work as much as possible. Though off the back of that, had a conversation the other week. Do you know who Tom Cronin is? Yeah. So I had him on and speaks about meditation, but he speaks about the feelings that we're talking about that we get from doing these modalities. He touches into spiritual hedonism, where people are chasing the next high and then doing it for the wrong reasons, to get the high, not for the actual benefits of it. Have you seen that with the work that you've done, or?
Yeah, a little bit. There's some junkies that like, but in terms of other habits in society, if breathwork is your vice against going out and getting shit-faced, against adverse junk food, if breathwork's your vice, you've got good problems.
True. When you put it like that, it's you'd rather chase the breath than drugs.
I did some work with a professional rugby league player. I won't name him. Played for Australia, played New South Wales. He's like, "Can I do it too much?" Like, I love it. I'm like, potentially you could overdo it, but like in the scheme of things, it's it's not a bad option.
And coming back to breath and meditation, what came up for me is a lot of people struggle with letting go during the meditation, whereas breath kind of forces you to let go, because you have to focus on your breath. Yeah. Your ego is kind of pushed to the side, whereas meditation, you're all up here and your ego can come in and take control. Yep. And for you, the king hit came up and it created that flashback of all that trauma.
There's data and science around it. I've found it. There's a brilliant book on the polyvagal theory. They did studies on groups where they worked on people. I think they did massage first and psychology second, and then they did psychology first and massage second. So the group where they did body work first actually had much more improvement than the group that sort of started with the psychologist. So these people had suffered trauma, and then they're just talking about the trauma and reliving that trauma. There's a little bit of data and science when you delve deeper into all these things.
For you, I seem you struggled a lot with anger and blame and hate for a period of your time. I'm assuming it was after the king
Absolutely.
hit. How did you move through that? Was it the breath that helped you, or what was the kind of healing?
No, that was my first coach, a guy named Aaron McKenzie, a Paul Check coach. He's like, you got to forgive the bloke that, and I've just paid for 6 sessions. I paid, $150 a session, which was extraordinary back then. I'm like, what have I just given this bloke all this money? And he's telling me I've got to love the bloke that king hit me and ruined my life. Like, this guy's mental. But he was right. Holding on to that hate, that frustration, that anger is poison. You got to let it go.
How did it feel letting it go?
Yeah, I struggled with it. It wasn't an easy process. And I don't think, I have to love the guy or, I like to call a spade a spade. I don't like to patronise people. I think he did the wrong thing. Absolutely. If he was a man, he could have tapped me on the shoulder and said, Dean, I want to fight you. I think you've done the wrong thing. And he's entitled to his opinion. Yeah. But he ran up and king hit me from the side. I didn't see it coming. He could have killed me. People have died. He would have ended up hopefully would have ended up in jail. Who knows what's happening. But if it was more recent, he most certainly would be in jail for a considerable amount of time. He was sort of lucky to get off with a charge of grievous bodily harm and a bit of community service back, when was it, 10, 15 years ago.
You mentioned it ruined your life. How do you see that now? Do you feel like it still ruins your life, or you're happy?
It's the best and worst day of my life. I wouldn't be here today if that didn't happen. I wouldn't be on this path, on this journey. It gave me a hypersensitivity to understand my own nervous system and my own body. After the assault, if I'd have, vegetable oil, something, I'd go out, get takeaway, like you, you sort of, you shouldn't eat Macca's and you still do, and you feel shit afterwards. I used to scratch myself till I bled after doing that. And after that, and my nose would block up, just completely blocked. And it was like, I knew not what not to do. My body was literally slapping me in the face, going, "Don't do that."
Yeah, it forced you to change into forced
me to change.
Do you know?
But I become so stressed and so focused on anything, I couldn't go out with my friends because I didn't want to eat in the food. So, it's I really struggle with it because sometimes people really need that discipline to break and create new habits. But also we don't want to add more stress to their life. So it's trying to find what that perfect balance was it. And I certainly don't think I did it the perfect way, but I did what I knew, what I could, and what I was doing my best, and I was adding so much. So I had to let go in the end of that stress and control. And that was a big thing that really helped.
You have to, if not, it just continues to take a toll on you. And it builds up and builds up and builds up. And so many people never deal with that trauma. So for you to actually acknowledge first, I'm going through some stuff mentally, to then seek help, and then to get the help, and for you to sit there and actually go, okay, I forgive this guy. I don't.
But I didn't like the doctors. I hated the psychologist. I ended up addicted to massage therapy.
Really?
Yeah, well, because I had a disc bulge in my C4-5. Like the king hit sort of whiplashed my neck. So every couple of days, I was like, I would lock up and I would just rock into one of those Chinese massage places. And then I worked out sometimes they'd massage me with some cheap, nasty oil, and that would sort of bug me. So I'd rock in with my own coconut oil.
Really?
Yeah, and they used to, what's this? Oh, this is nice. That's what sort of control freak I was.
Wow.
But the massage was so much beneficial than the doctors and the psychologists and the medication.
You spoke about allergies. Now, for you, what was that allergy? So to give context, myself, I struggle a lot with hay fever. Is breathwork something that could help with that, or is that just something I got to deal with?
Yeah, I haven't worked with a lot of people with hay fever. Anecdotally, the Patrick, my teacher, he talks about people's hay fever decreasing as their BOLT score improves.
Okay.
So the more nasal breathing would generally be linked to sort of less mouth breathing, you're filtering whatever allergen you are breathing. So if you can filter that and pass it through your digestive tract, it's better than breathing it in through your mouth.
So you build like a tolerance to it.
Well, you improve your body's ability to maybe some gut health issues. If you've been down the gut health route, it's horrible because things get worse before they get better, and it's like, what? I've got parasites. What are parasites?
How deep do you go into it all?
Well, I did go super deep years ago, like super deep.
What?
Raw milk, you know.
Testing your shit in the toilet or
what? Yeah. There was stool samples and looking at different poop, and a lot of talk about it. I used to squat on the toilet to get a full bowel movement.
Wow.
I never drank my own urine.
Didn't go that far.
But I would.
Really?
Yeah, if it'll give me health.
Is actually studies like
they talk about it for cancer, and again, this is not my level of expertise, but yeah, there's people that do this shit. Yeah. The flat earthers I love. Like there's this whole range of weirdos and I shouldn't. Weirdos are that's so wrong. I apologise for
different
that.
Different opinions.
But you when I first was exposed to this, like it was just mind-blowing. Like, because I grew up, my mum was a nurse, so whenever we were sick, we were taken to the doctor. And so to discover people that were just thought completely differently and were involved in organic food and natural health practices was just mind-blowing, the way these people looked at the world and some of the things that they were interested in and believed in and talked about was fascinating, and I used to love it. And I used to call them, my organic friends, but it was a sort of broader term for, people that didn't wear deodorant. So I was mind blown because these people had BO. They some of them stunk, but deodorant's a horrible thing. Like some of those commercial deodorants are full of crap, and all those little things add up over time. There's aluminium and links to breast cancer, and again, not my area of expertise, but just decreasing that crap on your body makes you healthier.
So what do you use?
There's some natural deodorants that I use, but generally if I eat well and I'm not too stressed, I don't smell. I don't have BO.
Oh, so that it's linked to your diet, is it?
Excuse me, that little bit of milk's irritating my throat today. I was telling people I could now tolerate milk. That was a lie. No, it wasn't. There's a couple of natural ones that I use, natural products. I bounce around. I've got nothing to recommend or nothing that I'm affiliated with. I clean my house with some Young Living products. Mm-hmm. So sort of every facet of my life, I sort of look at the health implications of that. So the sort of minimising chemicals and makes you healthier.
Especially in the world we live in now, we've got to minimise as much as we can.
Detox, physically and mentally.
When it comes to society, everyone's saying that we need to heal. There's this big healing aspect going through like the spiritual community and society itself. Do you believe as a society we're sick?
Well, at the moment, all-cause death mortality's up 13-14%. The longevity stuff, I think the longevity's going down ever so slightly, but then they talk about health span, right? So whilst we are keeping people alive longer, how much of that are they healthy and are they active? There's certainly, on the mental health scene, I think somewhere in Australia, 4,000 or give or take, people killed themselves last year or the year before or whatever the data was done.
We lose 7 to 8 men a day.
Yeah, maybe, yes. I've heard 9 as well. So, and again, I'm not an expert on those statistics. So there's certainly room for improvement.
What do we do?
It's all the little things.
Yeah.
It's when I work with people, it's trying to pick the low-hanging fruit. So if they're mouth breathing at night, that's a great start. If they're drinking 6 coffees a day, if they're staying up all night jacking off to porn, these are things that
They can impact, yeah.
that they shouldn't be doing.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
Now that literally starting from, and I've heard people drinking 9 coffees a day, like that's going to give us the big bang for their buck as worrying about a couple of pieces of gluten toast that they're having in the morning. Focus on those really big ones and sort of, start to adopt those habits, cement 3 or 4 of those good habits, and then sort of work down the chain. But people have got to want to change.
Yeah,
people don't want to change, and the way the medical system works, that they don't recognise or acknowledge that in some places. So, people don't seem to look outside the box. As we talked about earlier, some people said, "Oh, the doctor said this," and that's what they'll do. So people have got to want to change. Yes,
and I guess that's why you do what you do, to continue promoting and getting people to understand different ways of how they can live their life.
Yeah, I don't want to give unsolicited health information. Like, people are listening to this, they choose to listen to this, they choose to listen to you and, the guests that you have on. But yeah, I don't, if people are out in the street, I don't want to convince them to do stuff. Unless they're interested, unless they ask. If people ask for my advice, I'm happy to give it, but sometimes people aren't ready for my advice.
It's true. And
people aren't ready to hear that deodorant causes cancer, that tap water is shit. It's too much. People get offended.
Or the sunscreen.
People lost their mind at Pete Evans. And, I've had people go, "Oh, Pete Evans does this." And I'm go, "What did Pete Evans do?" And they said, "Oh, sunscreen causes cancer." I said, "Well, it's full of chemicals. Do chemicals cause cancer?" And they're like, "Oh." I said, "Have a look. Google it on your phone. Is that carcinogenic?" Now, just because something's carcinogenic doesn't necessarily mean it causes cancer, but if we, go down the chain, Pete speaks the truth.
You're outside most days. You're on the beach. What do you use for your skin to protect yourself?
Mate, great question. It's almost like we planned that, like we should have. So when I was a young man, I used to go out all night chasing girls, drinking, maybe even taking some drugs, and eating crap, not getting much sleep. Next day I'd get sunburnt. 10 years later, after being assaulted, understanding health and nutrition, eating a full-fat diet, fully hydrated, you just don't get sunburnt, don't get sun damaged.
Really?
Yeah.
How so? Have you dived into it, or?
Well, a lot of people aren't getting the fat in the diet. A lot of people are eating margarine. Those seed oils are really nasty. And again, not my area of expertise. It's very broad, this sort of health area, and different things work for different people, and the stress of poor diet affects people differently. But yeah, the seed oils do something nasty to the skin, I believe. I'm not into the broader health coaching stuff as much these days, sort of focusing on breath and ice.
And on a deeper level, essentially what that is stress response, right? Is that your expertise is stress? Stress
response, yeah. But yeah, you're adding stress by decreasing nutrition. The sleep's a stressor. It's the decreasing of the health. The body's not recovering. It would be interesting to sort of talk to some experts in that field, but people like that, they get cancelled in society. Doctors aren't allowed to have opinions anymore, and we saw that recently during COVID. They weren't allowed to tell people their opinions. They had to go with whatever APRA or whatever they're called was saying. So a doctor can't give you advice. I'm not a doctor. We've discussed that earlier in the piece. We know why. I can give people advice, and but you got to do your own research, people.
100%.
You've got to get information. Don't take my word for it. Look it up. Experience it for yourself. Try it. See if it works for you. Just because it worked for me doesn't necessarily mean it's going to work for you.
Yeah, I've had this discussion lately when it comes to even posting content online, and it's a 1 minute snippet. There may not be a lot of context around it, yet people are judging the information in that 1 minute thing without doing their own research. Yeah. It's like, it's there to spark curiosity for you to go do your own research and come up with your own conclusion. Yet people miss all those steps.
Yeah.
They just see that video and go, oh, that's good, that's bad, this is what I think about it.
Yeah.
Do your own research, people.
Do your own research. Be open to the possibility that you're wrong. And, you know, as I just mentioned, anything that I've said today, no doubt I've said a couple of words wrong, and I'm not an expert in some of those areas, but be open to what we've learned may not be true, or what we've grown up to believe. A lot of things I grew up to believe, are not true, and it's changing that mindset, and then just doing your own research. People's minds are blown, like when I don't have a microwave and stuff like that. They're like, what? It's like, oh yeah, the Russians invented microwaves and they didn't use them, and they're like, bullshit. And I'm like, look it up.
So you don't microwave your food either?
I don't have a microwave. Tastes better when you heat it back up in the oven or on a pan.
Yeah, okay.
And it's better for you.
How so? Well, so what does the microwave do? I know you're not an expert. I know. Well,
I think the microwave heats it from the inside out, or from the outside in, or something, and it just destroys the nutrition in the food.
Yeah, okay.
And then when there's no nutrition in the food, there's no nutrition for us.
So we're eating a full meal, but it's not nutritious. Yeah, wow. Might have to stop
these drink bottles.
Microwaving my food.
Well, and it depends, yeah. So for me, it's trying to work out what your goals are, and you want to perform better, you want to live better. What are your goals, and then sort of tying them into eating more nutritious food.
Yeah, and especially if you're going to microwave things, make sure there's no plastic on it.
Plastic, yeah,
because that's what causes a lot of issues as well within the food.
Endocrine disruptors, those, again, it's toxic chemicals.
Yeah, all these little
freezing and cooking in plastics. Not ideal.
Everything's in plastic these days. It's so
everything's
hard.
in plastic. Everything's cooked in vegetable oil. Everything has sugar in it.
It's like we have to just create our own farm.
Yeah.
Where are you going to do that?
There's Wi-Fi towers popping up everywhere, and then when you're like me and you're aware of all this stuff, you just walk around and you're like, you get anxious. Because you start to know this stuff's bad for you, and it's like, geez, I wish I was blissfully unaware and just cruising through life, getting drunk on a Friday.
Or do you go, I need to buy some property out some far away?
I was banging on about radiation before and Wi-Fi. Like, I'm on my phone a lot.
Yeah. It's hard to escape it.
I spent, if you look at my time on the phone per day, there must be 5 or 6 hours on there. Like, I do a lot of work from the phone. So it's, it's trying to manage and trying to understand and trying to minimise when you can. And, I talked about turning the Wi-Fi off at night. For me, that's an easy win. Decreasing that electromagnetic radiation while you sleep is win.
Have you noticed a difference, or it's just up here?
Yeah, I don't know if it's psychological or not, but when I wake up and the Wi-Fi's on, I'm disappointed. Now, if you know much about the placebo effect, if you believe something to be true, then it is so. But yeah, there is some data, as I mentioned. I saw something on TikTok recently where they had 2 plants in a Wi-Fi thing, or seedlings. Mm-hmm. One of the Wi-Fi was on, one of the Wi-Fi's off. The seeds didn't grow in the thing with the Wi-Fi on.
Yeah, wow.
I've heard about the other ones, people watering plants with microwave water. Plants don't grow.
That is interesting.
One of your posts that sparked a bit of interest recently was one on filtered water.
Yes.
And I commented, actually, and I think it sparked a lot of interest. And I didn't like the sort of cut was like, filtered water was bad, which was engaging people. Yeah. And it's like, I don't think this is edited right for people.
Yeah, I look back at it now, I'm like, maybe I shouldn't have cut it.
Well, anyway, it's all right. It's got people talking, and that's the way people do things in social media. And if it engages them and it gets people to look into water a little bit further and gets people talking about filtered water.
Yeah, that's all it is. Just spark the curiosity.
Spark the curiosity. That's what we want people to do.
So on that, what's your opinion on filtered water? It's better than tap water. We agree.
All day, every day.
But is filtered water?
Well, not all filtered water's the same.
Yeah.
What type of water filter? How many cartridges does it have? Does it remove fluoride? Is it a reverse osmosis? They're considered the gold standard.
Okay.
And then does it have a remineralizer? And this is, I think, where you were talking in the podcast. They're sort of saying everything's removed. And the reason everything's removed out of some water filters is because the government puts shit in our water that I don't think should be there. Mm-hmm. There's an argument about fluoride, whether some dentists don't use fluoride at all. Is fluoride beneficial when it's applied topically? Potentially it is. Again, not my level of expertise. Is fluoride beneficial when you're drinking it for your teeth? I'm pretty much going to side with no for that one, and I don't think it should be in our water.
Yeah.
But do people even know that fluoride's in their water? And chlorine and other shit?
No, most people don't. They just drink the tap water. Like for me, I filter my water, but I add Celtic salt to it.
Yeah, nice.
Or lemon. And for me, I can just notice the difference as well in the taste, and I don't have to drink as much as well. Whereas before, I felt like I had to drink so much water. Whereas this, because it has the minerals back in it, I feel a lot more hydrated.
Yeah, you're potentially retaining it and not just pissing it straight out.
Yeah. So yeah, that's an interesting conversation in itself.
Well, it's funny. Well, you've got to be body aware, and you've got to understand and feel these sensations for yourself. And if you're not body aware, you could be drinking different water and just not even notice. Mm-hmm. So yeah, you've got to be interested. And sometimes, for the people out there who I've offended, I apologise. I'm not trying to offend anyone. I don't think I'm better than anyone. My awakening was when I lost my health. And when I lost my health, I wanted to get it back. And then I become aware of these things that I was never aware of. I never knew about filtered water, organic food, masticating properly. That's chewing your food for people that don't know. I never knew either. Like all these things that, you sort of go your life. I was sort of 30 when I started learning some of this stuff. And that's about the time when people's health potentially starts to decline, physical or mental health. And potentially, hopefully, they start to get interested. And some people, like me, bounce through the medical system, lack support. Some people, know or lose someone to suicide. Some people want to make a change.
Yeah, I think that the whole basis of this podcast is to take health into your own hands. Don't trust what everyone else says. Don't trust what we say.
Yeah.
Do your own research.
Do your own research. Try it, and then try it for you.
And focus on the little 1%ers.
I've got 5 or 6 really good mates with their own mental health charities.
Yeah.
So that's how, and these mental health charities have been around for 10, 15 years in some cases. So that's how bad the mental health world was. The government wasn't doing anything. People stepped up and started picking up the slack. Yeah. Now, again, I'm not sure where the space is. There's so much more awareness, but as we talked about, there's still more people killing themselves than ever. And if we look at COVID, the government was shutting down whole states because there was 2 deaths. It's fucking ridiculous.
Yep. And locking us all up, which is
causing mental health.
Yeah.
And mental health, the epidemic, pandemic, whatever it is. Yeah, the world seems very backwards, and it's almost upsetting and stressful to talk about. Sometimes I get down just knowing all this stuff. I just feel like the world's doomed.
Does it stress you out, especially being a father and your kids are going through this?
Yeah, it's interesting. So the kids are on mobiles and iPads. And, potentially if I was hardcore, and some people may suggest I'm not walking the walk by letting my kids have those devices, you can see what it does to them. You can see it changes them. Like those blue lights, you can see how addictive they are. But yeah, we want balance. I want the kids to be normal. I'm a bit stricter with what the kids eat.
Yeah. Okay.
And my ex-wife is stricter with screen time. And it's a really nice balance, actually.
Okay.
And then the kids, interestingly enough, know who they have to work for what. They're so bright. Actually, the girls are smarter than boys. You've got a little girl, right?
Yeah.
So much smarter boys. Like, she's 2. Is she dressing herself? Is she?
She's trying to put her own shoes and
Yeah.
stuff on. Yeah, she's very smart for her age.
My 9-year-old boy like puts shirts on back to front and like shoes on the wrong foot still. Like, he's so funny.
God love him. What has being a father taught you about life?
It gave me gratitude for my own parents. Yeah, gratitude's an amazing thing once you get it. And nearly being killed will give you a little bit of gratitude as well. Being grateful to be alive. Gratitude's a big one, and just realising how much sacrifice, how much my mum did for me and then still does for me. She comes over and helps with my kids. I'm so love my mum. She's so awesome.
Yeah, it's once you become a parent yourself, you have that gratitude for your own parents and understanding that they're just doing the best with the tools that they had. No parent's perfect. They don't come with instruction manuals. So that was a big realization for me, was being grateful for my own parents and what they did for myself and my brother growing up.
Yeah, I reckon it was like late teenager before I realised my parents were human. Like you just, I don't know, you sort of grow up just expecting stuff and your parents to be perfect. It's quite odd.
What are some of the lessons you want to instill into your own kids?
Yeah, good question. So I lead by an example, and it's funny, the kids can be a little bit standoffish with some of the potentially weirder habits that I have or do. It's a strange situation though, because I am some sort of B or C grade or D grade celebrity, and I'm on TV, so people think that I'm special. So in some ways, when I do weird stuff, it's sort of looked at as unique. And so I think that helps me with the kids. It definitely gets me points. Some of her friends think I'm cool. Like the kids, it was fascinating because my kids grew up seeing me on TV.
Yeah.
And that was normal for them. They didn't know any different. Potentially, they thought everyone's dad's on TV. Who knows what a kid thinks? So when we'd be out and people would come and want to get a photo, that was normal for them, very normal for people to stop and get photos. It wasn't until they hit 7, 8, 9, 10 when people go, oh, your dad's on TV, or oh, can I get a photo with your dad? They were starting to go, oh, hang on, this is special. This doesn't happen to other people. So, yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah, so it's getting them to understand, like, be yourself, be unique.
Be yourself. And, so I lead by example. We try and, to do the little things. We try and eat together. I encourage kids to chew their food, I've always packed them a water bottle filled with filtered water, ideally a stainless steel water bottle. They're not so big on putting salt in their water. They used to eat more liver and offal and stuff like that. It's now it's sort of these trade-offs now. Sometimes I have to give them ice cream and ice cream's a bugger. Most of the ice cream's got bloody vegetable oil in it.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared to give them a little bit of sugar, but when it's half full of vegetable oil as well, it's like, no, I'm out.
Is there any good ice creams out there that you use?
Which one? So the organic stuff is generally better, but you've got to look at the labels.
Yeah.
They're putting cheap, nasty shit in our food. Yeah. You make your own. Fresh cream and fresh berries are beautiful. Yeah. And if you want it sweeter, put a drizzle of maple syrup on it. Making your own food is generally the way to go. It's just time expensive. But it's like reheating your food in the pan or in the oven. It just takes longer. But ultimately, when you start to tap into the taste and you resensitize your... God, I'm making up lots of words today. Resensitize your taste buds. It's a game changer. For people that are eating crap food and crap sugar, when they eat sort of cream and berries, they don't appreciate it. It takes a while for their taste buds to readjust.
Do your kids do the breath and the cold exposure?
They do the cold exposure. The breath's hard for kids.
Yeah. Because I was going to ask, like, how young do you start teaching kids, and how do you teach them?
Yeah, it's a challenge. It's re-educating the parents.
Yeah.
Partly. When I see people, it's generally sort of a couple of 2 or 3 sessions. And it's going through a lot of the things. There's mouth taping, there's understanding the physiology, how the physiology affects the psychology potentially, and then it's just understanding sort of breathing retraining and getting the parents to make it fun and put it in place. There's some cool analogies about soft drink and trying to get the kids engaged, but it's tricky. Now the cold gamifies it. It forces the kids to breathe through their nose and stay calm. And if they can't find it, they generally can't stay in.
Yeah. So do your kids enjoy the ice?
They play in it.
Yeah.
So if there's a couple of ice tubs and you've been to my place where we've got those tubs, there's a trampoline out there. Like if I've had a session that morning, there'll be a couple of cold tubs there. And next minute I'll hear them sort of squeal with delight. And they're playing, they're doing it themselves.
Yeah.
So it's monkey see, monkey do.
Yeah, wow. And they're getting the benefits off the back.
They're getting the benefits. But interestingly, like my kids will repeat some of the stuff I say, which really worries me. Because today I'm speaking really openly.
Yeah.
Like I don't speak like this normally. It offends people, it upsets them.
I appreciate you being so open.
Yeah. Well, hopefully someone will get something out of it and maybe make those small changes and, we might see a drop in cancer rates in times to come because...
Yeah. We have to be open though. We can't keep our mouths shut and not speak about how we feel.
Don't.
Yeah, like...
Don't bring that up.
I know.
I had to shut my trap a couple of years back.
Yeah,
that was offending people.
It
was getting me cancelled.
Yeah, it's...
I was losing followers on Instagram. Not that that's important to me, but...
it all adds up, eh?
People... The truth was hurting people because of their mindset. They couldn't think that they might be wrong.
Come back to do your own research.
Do your own research.
We're having an open, honest conversation on what we believe and our perception on things.
And different things work for different people. So what works for some people is not going to be... So, there's no one-size-fits-all solution. We shouldn't be mandating mouth tape for everyone. Shouldn't be mandating anything for everyone.
Yes.
Cheeky.
What are the benefits of cold exposure? And why do you incorporate that? Do you do it daily?
No, I don't do it daily. Not anymore. I've done a lot of cold exposure in the last couple of years. Benefits are broad and different for different people.
Yeah.
Understanding stress is sort of my angle on it. So I love to put people in that stressful situation. And then it comes back to some of the breathing work that I've taught them. And this challenges the breath. So that's generally my angle with people. We talked about hormetic stresses. So evolutionary humans have evolved getting cold. And we've lost that in the last 30, 40 years. And whilst this is good that we're comfortable and safe and not sleeping in the wild, we're not getting some of the health benefits from getting hot and cold. We're potentially, living in houses set to that like 21, 22, 23 degrees. And in some cases, the hotter houses are causing us to overbreathe and causes some physiological changes in the body. And this causes psychological changes in the body. So, that sort of getting hot, getting cold is a good thing.
Yeah, everything's all connected. The mind, the body, the spirit, and being able to put yourself in those stressful situations that you can control, like the cold exposure, like the breath work, is going to impact all the areas of your life. How long should someone go into what do you teach for someone to go on an ice bath for? Like 1 minute, 2 minutes?
Yeah, it depends how much ice is in the ice bath, firstly. So my ice baths are fully loaded with 50, 60 kilos, sometimes 70. For a big event on the weekend, I had 100 kilos of ice per tub.
Wow.
That was it was in Queensland.
What temp was the ice, like the bath?
It's probably 1 or 2 degrees.
Yeah.
Particularly where the ice is sitting, if you put the thermometer in there, it's 0.5, and then down lower, it's probably 2 degrees. Generally, on a 40, 50 kilo tub of ice, it's 2 degrees and maybe 4 degrees down the bottom. And that is enough to engage the gasping reflex for some people. Now, the gasping reflex is when they get in and they go, like that. So that's what I want to train. That's where we're training that stress response and understanding the importance of nasal breathing.
Yeah. If you can control the breath, you'll be able to
Yeah.
deal with that situation.
And then to go further and answer your question, for new people, it's 2 minutes.
Yep.
These people I've screened medically
Mm-hmm.
to know that they're clear for an ice bath. So cold therapy, pregnant, not suitable, heart disease, any major illness. Again, just sort of get the all clear by your doctor, and again, I'll discuss it with you if it's right for you on the day.
And then if ice bath's not an option, obviously cold shower, will you get the benefits off the back of that?
Yeah, you get benefits from, and you can just wear less clothes. You can go for a walk during the colder months with a t-shirt on and just get a little bit cold and be okay with that. And understanding that you're not necessarily going to get sick, depending on how stressed you are or what else is going on in your life. And actually that your body might respond positively to that little bit of hormetic stress.
I've seen a study, you can go and have a cold shower, but you just put your neck on it. There's a nerve or something that runs down here. And if you get cold exposure on that can you can get massive positive impact off the back of that.
Yeah, I haven't read that one, but yeah, there's so much interesting stuff going around that they're studying and talking about and quantifying it with HRV. HRV is a bit like heart rate variability, is the gap between the heart rates, and so it's a bit like our nervous system. We want it to be flexible, to go up and go down, and a little bit of stress is good, too much stress is bad. It's like inflammation.
Yeah.
A bit of inflammation after a weight session is going to help that muscle grow and get bigger. Whereas, stress and inflammation people see as sort of have negative connotations to. So
It's having the balance of everything.
yeah, that balance or just not this mindset that it's bad.
And if people want to learn about it, I know you've kind of created the ice bath and instruction course. What is that about and how can people jump onto that?
Yeah, great. So I saw people doing dangerous, reckless stuff. So if there are trainers, yoga teachers, physios, people that want to get qualified by someone who's put maybe 10, 12,000 people through ice baths, I've created a certificate where I train people online or face-to-face, and they can get some qualification and insurance in cold therapy. These are great community events. Really fun to get people getting together. It's really empowering. Now a lot of people are doing it. Back in the day when you did it, an ice bath was scary. You weren't seeing it on social media all the time.
The only time I did it was growing up playing rugby league. We'd do it after training for the recovery benefits, but it wasn't for mindset.
Yeah, so the footy players are exposed to it, but the general pop, they weren't exposed to ice baths, and it was terrifying.
Yeah.
People would come in terrified. It was really empowering to get those people doing something that potentially they didn't think they could do, and supporting them through breathwork. It's life-changing. We've had people hug us and cry and thank us, and it's beautiful work. Yeah. I love what I've been very fortunate in my life as a lifeguard and doing this work to be able to help people, and I'm really grateful. And hopefully this conversation has sparked an interest today, and I've put myself out there a bit. Gone rogue.
No, I love it.
Talk some truths that sometimes people don't want to hear.
No, it's been a great conversation. Speaking about the ice and the breath, it is getting incorporated a lot more now. I seen something in your page. Was it Bondo the other week? They did all those ice baths.
Yeah, mental health charity Waves of Wellness. They got a big fundraiser called Ducktober. Mm-hmm. And during Ducktober, they encourage people to get in the cold water, have a cold shower, have an ice bath every day in Ducktober. Great initiative. Yeah. Worked with them before. Great. And again, one of my good mates has got his own mental health charity.
Yes.
And they support people through surfing.
Yeah, okay.
Awesome research on surfing being more effective than medication for people with mental health as well.
Is that more so because you're in the present moment?
There's a whole range of things going on. So people are out in nature.
Yeah.
People are with other people. People are doing something fun, something new. I don't know, again, without reading the research.
You're a big surfer?
Big surf. Not a big surfer. I love the ocean.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm with the kids. Sometimes I'm out on the stand-up paddleboard. Sometimes I have a swim. As a lifeguard, you're just there.
Yeah.
Not getting in the ocean as much now. I'm sort of flat chat at the moment.
Too much.
Spending a lot of time behind a laptop,
yeah.
which again is not as healthy.
How does that impact you, knowing that the beach is right there, and it's coming into summer, but you're behind a laptop.
Well, I do have that flexibility working
Yeah.
for myself. On the beautiful days, I go and lie in the sun.
Mm-hmm.
I'm sunbaking most days.
You already got a tan, mate.
But yeah, I feel good after being in the sun.
Yeah.
It's magic. A little bit of sunshine, and I walk barefoot down to the beach most days and have a dip. With my partner, we did that most days in winter, most of the nice days. So yeah, I've got the flexibility to go and do that. We had 10 days in Indonesia recently and 2 weeks in Vietnam. And I talked about, that was sort of pre-recording, but yeah, I did a little bit of work while I was away, but also, potentially I could go and stay longer overseas and able to work, which is really scary for me because I never thought that I'd be able to do anything like this. So there's opportunities for me to travel the world, potentially earn some money at the same time and learn and evolve as a human.
I think that's what I'm personally striving for, is to incorporate business and travel so that I have the freedom to go and travel, but still have that income coming in to support me. And a lot of people I believe we should be striving for that, because that's freedom, like freedom to do what you want with who you want. You never work a day in your life. Yeah,
and that's the plus side to some of these technological things that we've been sort of criticising. But it's trying to find that balance and managing them and taking the good out of them and not sort of stressing about them.
Before we dive into a quick breathwork session, there's a closing tradition that we have on the podcast where the previous guest leaves a question for the next guest without knowing who it is. So the question for you, Dean, is what are your intentions for life when it comes to these 7 areas? So
7 areas.
What do you truly want to get out of the world when it comes to mindset, financial success, quality of life, happiness, inner peace, and relationships? So we'll start with mindset. What are your intentions when it comes to mindset?
Positive. I want to be positive.
Financials?
I want to be sufficient to be able to support myself, to study and evolve and support my family.
Success?
Well, it depends what you define success as.
How do you define success?
I feel like I'm already successful.
Yeah?
Yeah. I'm happy. I'm healthy. I feel smarter and stronger, I'm 45. I'm grateful.
Quality of life?
What's the question again? How do I define it, or what do I?
What are your intentions when it comes to that area of your life?
I'm living it.
Yeah.
I'm talking about it. Quality of life. We've talked about it through the whole session, trying to minimise and understand it, and trying to make those small improvements to maximise my quality of life and my health span. I'm not getting any younger, but yeah, I'm getting fitter and healthier. Happiness, again, related to quality of life. All the little things we've talked about today relate to my health and my happiness and my quality of life. Everything's my mindset. What were the other ones?
Inner peace.
All those things, everything's connected.
What about relationships?
Very happy, very much love with my partner, Katie. We love doing life together. She's my best friend. Her and the 2 dogs, I don't mean to be mean to the kids, but the dogs are just so awesome. Like they just adore me, the dogs.
Yeah.
The kids are starting to get a little bit older now where they're sort of looking at their phones and they're out with their friends. Lucy in particular, my daughter, she's sort of 12 going on 14, 15. She's out spending more time with her friends, and it's a little bit sad. Like it goes so quick.
Yeah, they say to make the most of your kids when they're younger, and that's something.
You know what's really special with the kids? When they all believe in Santa.
Yeah.
And so your daughter maybe this year might be aware of what's going on at Christmas, and it's just magic. And then, we sort of had 2 kids, and there was only a couple of years where that magic was, where they were both in that magic.
Yeah.
And it's so sad when it's gone.
To be grateful for every moment.
But beautiful times, and potentially I'll be a grandfather one day, and like that's like a next step, and that'll be exciting. Hopefully not too soon. But yeah, you know, it's beautiful to watch your kids grow and evolve. And I heard something on a podcast where they said your dad will be the only man that will ever want you to be better than him, or something along those lines. And it really resonated with me. And, you know, I love my son so much, and I speak really openly to him, and that he can come and talk to me if anything ever goes wrong, and I'll love him no matter what, and I'll always be there to support him. So, I'm going to cry.
Did you have that open relationship with your own father?
Yeah, my dad was amazing.
Yeah?
He's really supportive. He'd do anything for me, Dad.
Yeah, wow. And now you're able to pass that down to yours.
Yeah. But particularly, you know, with modern health, with mental health and what's happening, you know, it breaks my heart, mental health, when you see those stories.
Yeah. When
you've got kids, you just can't imagine what those parents are going through.
Yeah, that's why it's our job as parents to create that safe space and that foundation for our kids to feel comfortable in coming to us and being open in communication.
And physical health, everything we've talked about today affects mental health.
Mm-hmm. It's all connected.
And, you know, the better your physical health is, potentially the better your mental health is, or the better your mental health is, and the better support you can give your kids, or the better support your kids can give you. It's everything's, you know, if we can get healthier as a people, we can be happier.
Yeah, the foundation of life is health. And, man, you're a living example of that, especially for your kids to look up to you and see what you're doing in the community and in life. And you're doing a great job, and it was a pleasure having this conversation.
Thanks, it was a big one. I'd be interested to see how people can reach out, you know. That's the beauty of the world these days. Get messages from random people.
Yeah. Let's give the listeners a little takeaway. The 2 minute breath.
2 minute breath.
Yeah, you want to run us through that?
Yeah, I'm just going to grab my phone.
Yeah, all
so
good.
I can get the time. I've turned it off.
You can use that if you want.
Yeah, leave that there. All right. So we're sitting up or lying down? So wherever you are, if you can lie down, something soft underneath the knees. If you're sitting up, ideally we don't want people driving. We're breathing in and out through the nose, and there's 3 key things I want you to do. We're going to put our hands just below our ribs, and we're going to breathe in for 4 or 5 and out for 5 or 6. And again, inhale, make this one a little bit quieter. So breathing in through the nose, we want the diaphragm to get bigger, and then breathe out through the nose a little bit slower than the inhale, and feel that belly contract. So breathe in, belly gets bigger, diaphragm pulls down, and breathe out. Nice and slow. So we've got the diaphragm working, hopefully. If you don't, there'll be a video you can follow up. Breathing in nice and quietly. By breathing in quietly, we're breathing in less, and breathe out. And by breathing in quietly and breathing slowly, we're slowing down that respiratory rate. One more inhale. One more exhale. Now bring some relaxation into the body. Shoulders are relaxed. Third eye's relaxed. Ankles are relaxed. Inhale. Soft, slow exhale. Really nicely done. Let's do 3 more breaths. Inhale. And exhale, really quiet, really soft. This inhale, see if you can feel the air coming in through the nose and the air coming back out through the nose. Now on this inhale, see if you can notice the temperature of the air going in. And do you notice the slightly warmer temperature of the air coming out of the nose? You're nice and relaxed. Slowly bringing some movement back into the body. And how do you feel? Was it tangible?
Yeah, I feel good. Just those couple of breaths, you just
Couple
feel
of
relaxed.
breaths, trying to feel into the body, trying to feel those sensations, but you're not in the mind.
The beautiful thing of breathwork.
Yeah. It's magic.
Thank you.
Pleasure.